Ellie wandered through the bustling small shops with her 2.5-year-old daughter in tow. With Christmas just around the corner, the festive atmosphere filled every corner, as stores adorned their windows with various decorations, attracting lively crowds. Ellie, too, was on a mission to find the perfect Christmas present for her husband. Amidst the vibrant scene, a quaint antique shop caught her eye. She thought it might hold the key to an interesting gift. Upon entering, the little girl's excitement became evident as she pointed to a shelf where a porcelain doll with blonde, curly hair and a frilly dress stood. Though Ellie said, "Baby, she's not for you. She's a decoration," the girl persisted, extending her hand toward the doll. Unable to resist, Ellie approached the young man behind the counter and asked him to take the doll down. The little girl immediately embraced the doll, refusing to let go. Ellie chuckled and said, "All right, I'll take this, but let me check out something else first." The shop was filled with beautiful antiques, and eventually Ellie decided on an antique lighter as the final purchase for her husband. On Christmas Day, they all enjoyed a delightful meal together and exchanged gifts. Meanwhile, their little daughter happily played with the porcelain doll she had received earlier. However, an odd thing happened with their cat. The usually calm and friendly cat now seemed restless, avoiding any interaction with the family. Even when brought inside, the cat promptly fled the room, leaving everyone puzzled by its sudden change in behavior. The cat's peculiar behavior persisted for days. The animal fixated on the doll that the little girl had tossed aside, observing it for hours. When they approached the cat with the doll, it began hissing and attempted to swat at the doll, pushing it away. Ellie couldn't understand the situation. The little girl had lost interest in the doll, as is typical for children her age who quickly tire of toys. Thinking, "She gets bored of this, just like with other toys." Ellie placed the doll on a shelf in the girl's room. That night, they were jolted awake by the little girl's screams. Rushing to her room, they found her in tears, pointing anxiously at the shelf where the doll was placed. Assuming she wanted the doll, Ellie retrieved it and handed it to the little girl. Strangely, instead of calming down, the girl screamed even louder, crying hysterically as she tried to push the doll away. Perplexed, Ellie opened the closet door to hide the doll there, but the girl continued pointing and crying. Eventually, Ellie decided to take the doll out of the room. As soon as the little girl saw the doll being taken away, she calmed down, and they stayed with her until she fell asleep. The next day, as they sat in the living room, they realized their cat hadn't come around. While searching for the animal inside the house, they found it lurking in the corridor. The cat stood still, its eyes fixed on the doll that they had hastily removed from the child's room the previous night, leaving it on the shoe rack. Ellie pondered why the doll frightened the cat so intensely. Taking the doll, she placed it on the glassed-in balcony where they stored unused belongings and old books, then closed the door. One afternoon, as they were enjoying a drink in the kitchen, a faint smell of smoke caught their attention. While investigating the source of the odor, they noticed a glow emanating from the glassed-in balcony and hurried towards the illuminated area. Upon opening the door, they discovered that old newspapers on the balcony had ignited. Acting swiftly, they doused the flames with a bucket of water, managing to extinguish the incipient fire. As Ellie disposed of a few smoldering items in a bag, the porcelain doll caught her eye. After a brief pause, she remarked, "I'd better get rid of this too." Leaving the bag by the garbage outside the apartment door, she included the porcelain doll among the items, assuming that when the garbage collector arrived, they would dispose of it along with the rest. The next morning, Ellie awoke to rustling sounds coming from the hall. Her cat was hissing at the bag lying on the ground, trying to hit it with its paw. The animal's eyes widened with fear, and its fur stood on end. When Ellie bent down and looked, she realized that the thing in the bag was the porcelain doll she had thrown away yesterday. She went to her husband and said, "Did you bring the doll back in?" He had no knowledge of it. There was undoubtedly something strange about the doll. For a moment she wanted to tell everything to her husband, but how could she articulate the situation when she herself didn't fully grasp it? Getting rid of the doll became a pressing concern. Perhaps the best course of action was to return it to the antique shop where she had bought it. Leaving her daughter with her husband, she excused herself in the evening, claiming she was going out for coffee with friends. Sadly, assuming she was too late and that all the shops in the field were closed, she still decided to try her luck by pushing the door, and, to her surprise, found it unlocked. Inside, she called out, "Excuse me, is there anyone there?" The weak light in the room behind the shop flickered, revealing an old woman slowly approaching. As she drew near, Ellie observed her white hair and deeply wrinkled face. She could hardly walk. Ellie hesitated before saying, "I bought this doll from here, but I want to return it. Would you consider buying it back?" The old woman's eyes lit up when she saw the doll. "Sure," she said. With trembling hands, she took the doll and began to examine it. Ellie was so sure they would object that she was surprised at how easily the woman agreed to take the doll back. Moreover, who was this woman? What was she doing here at this hour when no one else was around? While Ellie was pondering these questions, she was startled by the woman's inquiry. "But it also had a hat. Where is that?" When Ellie looked at the doll carefully, she remembered the hat. "I guess it fell at home. Can I bring it tomorrow?" she asked. The woman said, "Of course, but please bring it. Don't forget." She left the shop, promising to bring the hat first thing in the morning. When Ellie stopped by early in the morning, she found an older middle-aged man in the shop. She took the little hat out of her bag and said, "I brought this, the hat of the doll I returned yesterday. You weren't here," she added. The man happily reached for the hat and said, "Thank you very much. So, you bought the doll. I'm so glad you brought it back. That doll belonged to my late mother, and after her death, I put it in the shop for good luck. It's been here for years. Our new colleague mistakenly confused it with other dolls and thought they were for sale. My mother has been coming into my dreams and reproaching me ever since this doll was sold," he explained. "Don't get me wrong," the man added. "The doll has a lot of sentimental value. My mother always had this doll with her since she was a child. Even on her deathbed, she had it next to her. Look at it in one of her last photos," he said, showing a picture on his phone. In the photo, an old woman posed smilingly with the doll Ellie had returned, now on the shelf. Ellie looked closely at the photo, stunned. She asked with difficulty, "When did your mother die?" The man replied, "It's been over 10 years. While Ellie was about to ask about the person who took care of her yesterday, the man anticipated, "Yes, he's our new colleague. He's a newcomer and doesn't know what he's doing." He interrupted. Ellie couldn't find anything to say. She wanted to leave as soon as possible. Thanking the man and quickly exiting, she knew very well that she would never even pass by that shop again. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for similar content.